I'm Sarah Mullins from FIT's Footwear and Accessory Design program, and I want to welcome you. Keiko and I are really excited to, hopefully this is the first of many shoe talks that we can have here and co-host together. So welcome to FIT, if you haven't been here before. If you got here upstairs on the 8th floor of this building, then you've made it, because it's hard to find. So, Keiko, you need to take the...
Thank you all for coming. We're so excited to have two renowned shoemakers from across the globe, one from Japan, Noriyuki Misawa, and from Japan, and René Berg from the Netherlands. We're so excited. And there's also many of you from all over the world also in the audience. So thank you so much for coming. I don't know if we should name everybody, or maybe at the end we'll do a mingle. You know, you guys can all chat. But there's England, Caroline Groves. There's Jitterbug Boy Jeff Churchill from Canada came in for the day, from Massachusetts. There's Sarah, and then the faculty from FIT faculty is all here. The Vogel team is here. Francis Waplinger here. You know, everybody. I mean, if I could start naming everybody, maybe it's a lot. So we packed up program today into super condensed 2 hours. So without further ado, I guess we should start and dive right into the world of footwear. All right, thank you.
Hi everyone. Thank you for coming today. I'm Noriyuki Misawa from Japan, Japanese shoemaker. I've been making shoes for about 24 years. I'm very happy to share with you about my activities. I want to give my first presentation as much as possible in English. But if it's difficult, please help me, Keiko-san. First, let me talk about my background, how I started making shoes and learned to make shoes. When I was a university student, I was really into shoes, sneakers, leather shoes. I was collecting all types of shoes. And there was a shoe store in my hometown. And I used to go there a lot. Then eventually, I got along with the owner. And one day, he told me, if you like shoes, you can make them. I was like, what? Can I make shoes myself? Actually, I never thought of that. But it was also really fascinating to me. Then I started shoemaking. First, I studied at shoemaking school in Tokyo for 3 years, 22 years old. And then trained at the bespoke shoe studio in Tokyo for 4 years. After that, I went to Vienna, Austria, and stayed there for about 2 years. First, I worked in a traditional shoe studio, like this. And after that, I worked in a designer shoe brand. After returning to Japan, I studied under a leather artist for 4 years. And in 2011, I launched my own studio in Tokyo. I started so small because I had just returned from Vienna and didn't have enough budget. My studio was kind of shabby warehouse, like an abandoned apartment room. But That was the only place I could afford. In the first place, I had no clients. I was just designing, making my shoes alone. No one was coming. I was doing it alone for a couple of years and didn't talk to people that often. So I almost forgot my Japanese. Yeah. But eventually, I had my clients, and I renovated the place, bought some furniture, and some stuff, trying to make my studio comfortable for me. It actually took about 5 years to set up the studio. Like this. You know, recently some people try to launch their business really big. It's okay, but I think not everyone can do that. So you guys can start your business really small like me. And next, about my activities. First activity, bespoke shoemaking and art shoemaking, teaching shoemaking. So first, bespoke shoemaking. Customers come to my studio, I measure their fit, and we decide on the design and leather. It's made from the last, and then do the fitting. After that, I move to the actual production. It takes about 6 months to 1 year to complete. Like this. Next, my second These are samples, my bespoke shoes, classic style. And these are music series, my representative works, music, inspired by violin. And then ladies' shoes. And these are for Japanese Imperial Household Agency, so royal style. Next, my second activity, making art shoes. This activity is my specialty. So far, I have exhibited at the Cannes Film Festival, Chelsea in New York, London, of course Tokyo, and Singapore. And I'm holding a solo exhibition in Paris from the 28th of this month. At the Cannes Film Festival, I got a lot of orders from many celebrities, such as film director Spike Lee and Adrian Brody. Yes. Cannes was an amazing place for me. This is Los Angeles Times. French film director Claire Denis wearing my boot. Next, New York. My first solo exhibition was in New York. I had more visitors than I expected. And also a lot of FIT students came to see my shoes. That was a big success for me. The event gave me confidence. this. This is London. London was really famous for its classic shoes. I do have a lot of respect on the history and craftsmanship. Now, the industry is shrinking, but it's still one of sacred places for me. So I was a little nervous to have an exhibition there. I was wondering if my shoes would be accepted. But I had positive feedback from Londoners. I remember a man telling me, like, we should have taken on the challenge that you did. He told me he had been working in the shoe industry for a long time. That left me a strong impression. Next, Singapore. Singapore is the country where I'm teaching shoemaking. A lot of students came to see. I had a solo exhibition at the old Parliament House. It's one of the oldest buildings in Singapore. And next, let me introduce some of my representative works. First, Foot's Nest. Foot's Nest is this. Foot's Nest was inspired by Ant's Nest. Actually, the explanation is quite long, so please take a look at my website. Yes. So next, Mouse Attack Shoes. This work, Mouse Attack Shoes. I always try to put some humorous elements into my design. For example, this artwork, Mouse Attacks Shoe. The shoes look like they were attacked and eaten by a mouse. That's what I'm talking about. You know, when kids see them, they might laugh at them. I like that. I don't want to make my design too serious. I just want to make them a little familiar and heartwarming for everyone. Next, Beagle. This is an official tribute to industrial designer Sid Mead. Do you know Sid Mead? Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. So, not wear like ride. So, this is Beagle. Do you understand? 履くんじゃなくて、こう乗るみたいな感じ。
Like riding it.
Yes.
You're not wearing it, you're riding it.
Then, this is Crust. This work was inspired by Isamu Noguchi. He is famous in Japan, also New York. The construction of the shoe was inspired by the earth crust. So it looks very simple, but very difficult to make. Very difficult. Like this. This is Astro Heel. This is an official collaboration work of the famous Japanese animation Astro Boy. Not only inspiring by the shape of Astro Boy, but also putting my wish for the end of the world into the shape of the rainbow bridge. This is inspired by Astro Boy. And rainbow. 7 layers.
Leather.
Yes. Next, my third activity, teaching shoemaking. So there are 4 instructors including me. I teach 2 days a week from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We have short courses and long course. Short courses are 6 or 8 days long. About long course, after students have completed the basic level, 5 pairs, they will move on to the master level, 5 pairs. We mainly teach hand-sewn welted shoemaking, but we also teach high heels. Students start with Oxford, Derby, very basic style. And the final task is making bespoke last. We have classes almost every day, so students can graduate in 1 to 2 years. We have about 70 students. Some of all are studying hard to become professional. I have been teaching shoemaking in Singapore in 2018. I go to Singapore 2 to 3 times a year. In Singapore, I have already taught more than 200 students. So let's see the movie, short movie. Just 3 minutes short movie. Let's start first demonstration. Practice for lasting step. Please come here. 最初は私の日本の靴作りの学校にシンガポール人の生徒がいたんですけれども、その人の紹介でシンガポールの学校の代表の方が工房に訪ねてこられて、うちで教えてくれないかっていうオファーをいただいたところが始まりですね。道具も一から揃えたし、設備も一から揃えましたので、本当に大変だったですね。
So we consistently have amazing feedback, and that's why we invite Misawa-san to come back almost every year. The skills he teaches is very valuable, and not many places actually teach that.
I like making shoes, and because I have a big family, so I make shoes for everybody, and then once in a while I make shoes for myself.
今回16名ですね。6日間の短いコースになるんですけれど、それは本当に靴作りの入り口になるような設定でもあり、過去に靴作りを続けている生徒にとっては、ブーツ作りなので新しい体験でもありっていうことで、私の思いとしてはこの後本格的なコースに進んでほしいなっていう入り口の位置づけです。
Because actually I do like leather craft as a hobby, and I really like shoes, so I thought I would try making shoes for once. It's tiring work, but it's quite nice when you see it come together.
.シンガポールで2018年最初に教えた年に生徒として通ってくれた女性がいるんですけれども、彼女はその美大の講師でもあって、その縁で私を大学に紹介してくれて、であればせっかくなので展示してほしいと、話してほしいということでお話いただきました。 異国の地でものづくりを教えることの難しさっていうのは最初の年から感じてたことでもありましたし、3年4年経ってもやっぱり難しいなって感じて、日本人とは価値観がまるで違うので、そんな中で伝え続けなきゃいけないなと思ってます。すぐに伝わってすぐにそれが、文化になってっていうのはありえないと思うので、これはもう地道に伝えていくしかないなって思いますし、歴史に残るような魅力的な靴を作るっていうことで、そこに憧れを抱いて、目指してくれる人が増えてくれればなっていう思いで、私自身も成長しなければいけないなと思ってます。
Lastly, there's one thing I realized from my teaching job. It's really challenging to teach craftsmanship. Bespoke shoemakers really take a long time to create their shoes. We don't care about the time. We focus on the quality, even if we can't make much money of the shoes. We sometimes don't care, as far as we are satisfied with what we created. This is what's called craftsmanship. But I know it's weird. Basically, when we produce things, we should think about efficiency, quickness, smoothness, and of course profit. But when it comes to shoemaking, we need craftsmanship. So when I teach shoemaking, I also have to teach craftsmanship. That's the most challenging part. But I'm always trying to teach my students craftsmanship. Thank you very much.
I'm curious what inspired you to get into art shoemaking from bespoke shoemaking. What was that jumping off point? Where do your inspirations come from for the art pieces?
日本語でいいですか？スカラプチャーシューズを作ってることで、普通の靴作りじゃちょっと考えられないようないろんなアイディアとかテクニックとかが生まれて、それがビスポークシューメイキングにこう上手に反映されていくっていうか、そういういい効果がありますね。
いつ頃 when was like it was like when or how did you switch, right? So
when and how, like how did you go from bespoke shoemaking into art shoes? What was that transition like?
いつ頃経緯の中25年の中で
10年ぐらい修行して時間が経った時に独立を考え始めたんですけど、自分のオリジナリティ、技術は十分にあったんだけど、オリジナルの靴のデザインができなくてすごい悩みました。でそこで僕が見つけたのがアート。
So after 10 years of training and making, he had the skills and he can make bespoke shoes, but he wanted to make something original, but it was really hard to come up with something original, like an original design of shoes. So for him, getting inspired by other things in the world, he turned to making more art. Does that answer? But that was around 10 years. And then he really like, he said it was like very hard times, to like really think, how can you be different? And I think I saw him around that time too, like, how, because there's so many bespoke shoemakers now, also in Japan as well, and everybody has the skill to make the beautiful Oxfords or beautiful, derbies, and how can you be different? And he wanted to be different, and so that's when
ビスポークシューズとっていうかクラシックシューズってすごいこう決まった型があるっていうか、 オリジナリティがすごい出しにくいんですね。でそれがすごいこう自分の中でフラストレーションで、もっとみんなと違う変わったことがしたいっていうのがもうアートとの融合だったですね。
Okay. Okay, it's like the lost in translation part. I think I kind of explained, but because the traditional shoemaking and the classic shoes, there's not that much leeway to make it too different from, because it's the classic shapes, the history, it's not just the colors or the thread or, you know, it's, so it was much more fun and interesting to go into something that's completely different, and that made it more art. Yeah.
Could I just add to that? My thought on that would be that with bespoke shoemaking and the classic styles, it's very, the nature of bespoke is that it's so subjective. It's got to be about the client and the client's feet. And when you can step aside from that and just think about the object and the beauty of the object and take some of the craft skills that you've learnt and just move them into the art space, I think that's just a very freeing type of thing. I think classic bespoke shoes are, you know, it's difficult because you've got to have that huge high level of craftsmanship, but it's always compromised by something about the client's feet. And
分かんなかったです。はい。はい。どっちもそうですね。どっちも楽しいですね。お客さんの要望って僕の考えと違うことがいっぱいあって、最初はいやそんなのやりたくないとか、ちょっと僕のスタイルと違うんだよなって思ってて嫌だったんだけど、受け入れてみるとなんか新しい自分が発見できたり、あ、こんなデザイン僕好きだったみたいなこう気づきになったりするので、自分のこう狭い世界を広げてくれるっていう意味ではお客さんのオーダーはすごい重要ですね。
So he does enjoy client work as well, because it, you know, initially when he was younger, maybe he was like, oh, it's not the same style that he likes, or like he didn't like the opinions maybe of the customer, for example. But it always opens his eyes to new design ideas or techniques or something. So he enjoys it as well, equally. Yeah.
Are some of your art pieces wearable?
Yes, about 50%.
Oh wow.
Yes.
50%. Yeah. In particular.
Yes, these are wearable shoes.
The nest as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah. Okay.
This is my latest work. Egg. People can wear.
Oh, does it open? Does it open up?
Not open.
Oh, you just have to slide in. Wow. That's cool. 何で作られてるんですか? What is it made out of?
最初にシューズで cork and leather.
Leather. Yeah. And the nest is also all leather.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is
Every layer,
heel leather.
like soling leather. Yeah. Okay. And I think somebody asked about, previously asked me to ask if you ever use non-hand tools. Do you use like industrial tools, or do you do everything by cut everything, sand everything by hand? Do you like use band saws or 全部手の工具使って作ってますか？
Yes, almost.
Almost all hands tools.
Except sanding machine.
Oh,
I
yeah.
use sanding machine.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. My name is René van den Berg. I'm here from the Netherlands. At first, I would like to thank Keiko and Sarah for the possibility to have the shoe talks here and to meet so many lovely shoemakers from all around the world. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story of how I became a shoemaker and up to the point where I am now. Like it says, in my opinion, all shoes are figure-outable because I've had so many challenges thrown at me from a various group of very creative people who asked me to give life to their designs. Some of them you will see passing by. Just a short story of how I started. I'm from a family of shoemakers. Those were in the repair business. I'm a fourth generation shoemaker, and I started out as an orthopedic shoemaker. When I was very young, I will show you, well, the first slide is, that's me. That's the first photo of me in the shoe store of my grandfather, and I was photographed carrying around a shoebox, and I've seen nothing else but shoes for my entire life. This is an image of a drawing that I made. I must have been around 6 years old or something, 7. I could barely write, and well, it's like it said, the text, which is not very visible. But it says, I want to become a shoemaker because I like that, and made some drawings of some hammers and pliers and nails and a knife. At first, when I grew up, I really wanted to go to art school because that was something that was inside me, and I thought that it needed to come out. But in high school, I was advised to become a shoemaker, just like my father, because how are you going to make any money out of making art? It's probably a thing that most of us here have heard about. My teacher, my art teacher at that school, said, well, why don't you become an orthopedic shoemaker? It's a lot more complicated profession, and it requires a lot of insight in building the shoes, contact with clients, and getting to know materials and find ways to express the needs of a client into a wearable shoe. So that's what I did. I was 17 when I went to school. That was in 1981. So that makes it, almost 43 years of making shoes since then. The shoe training was back then still 8 years, and in those 8 years we first learned, in the first 4 years we learned to become a bespoke shoemaker, and in the second term of 4 years it was becoming an orthopedic shoemaker. So there was theory and practical shoemaking. While being in that, while being educated, I also worked in the field, where I started from the bottom and worked my way up through every single step of the shoemaking process. So, so I've been working in the orthopedics for 10 years in total, and then I started, it was time to become self-employed. And it's something that Noriyuki also said, it's when you have done 10 years of very intensive educating yourself and practicing your skills, it's enough time to realize that you're good enough to be out on your own. And the first thing I did around that time, I was a really great fan of horror movies like Alien and stuff, and I really enjoyed the work of H.R. Giger, who did the artwork for one of the Alien films. And oh, this is, by the way, one of the first exam shoes. It's a really traditional shoe, and I have been, well, after this, I've been away from the traditional shoemaking for a very long time. Later on in the presentation, you will see that I also came back to this. But this boot was a boot that I made in 1992, and it has all the features and characteristics of the what the Alien films were like and how they were designed by Giger. I was really fascinated by the organic shapes, and I thought, well, I wanted to make a pair of boots for myself, and they weren't there, so I just decided I had to make them. This inspired me to push it not for shoes for making men, but I thought, well, I can also do this for women's shoes. I will show you, this is the first shoe that I did for, it's called, the collection is called Beauty of the Beast, and it's inspired by organic animal shapes. I will go through this a little bit faster than the previous things. This is also one of the shoes that I made with a backbone and ribs in it. This is called Aradia, and it has also the ribs and has a kind of feel like a scorpion, which is in there. Arachno, which is, has the kind of spider sort of feel to it. And after working, making those type of shoes, I've got the attention of another shoemaker who asked me to make a pair of shoes for his wife. And he told me, I really believe in your work, and it doesn't, I want you to make something for my wife, and you have to, I was being kept totally free of the design. He says, it doesn't matter what it looks like, it doesn't matter what it costs, go at it. And so I came up with this design, and I made a drawing of it, and when I was, I challenged myself to actually make it, but then I realized that the back part of the shoe would make it almost impossible for the foot to enter. And then I had to figure out a way to make the shoe wearable, and I have it here, and I'll show you. At the back of the shoe, I've made a hollow tube and a spring, and that's the reason why with this shoe you can put this to the side, so the foot can enter, and then it goes back and clicks into its original shape, and then it can be worn. So this is has been made 30 years ago. So I was really, I've always been very much interested in finding or making it myself difficult and finding solutions to get it done anyway. This is also a very nice example of the same period. It's called the artist duplex, which means that it has that it's a joint made out of two pieces, And at the bottom part you can see, or on the left side you can see that the shoe opens with a hinge on the back, and it has a cylinder lock, and when the shoe closes you can close the lock and then you can wear the shoes. Don't lose the key. Daitsa is also one of the same tabula rasa collection. I forgot to mention that. Tabula rasa means a clean slate, so start over. And this one's interesting because of the build-up in the heel, which has a lot of different layers, which are shaped to make it well, the way it is. Okay. Next, I started. There was at one point a student from an art school in the Netherlands, and he made he designed clothes for his final show and as a designer at school, and he asked me to create a series of shoes matching his designs. And I only have 2 photos of this collection left. It's his clothing also had a lot of aluminium in it, so I made this collection and named it Aluminia. And it has a lot of aluminium features in it. And this student, his name is Irving Forster, and he applied for an apprenticeship or an internship at Thierry Mugler in Paris. And unfortunately, he didn't get the job, but he did manage to get his portfolio at Mugler's, where they saw the shoes that I've made for him. And before I knew it, I got a call from Paris. And they were really interested in if I could make shoes for them. I will get back to that later. I will first show you some of my own work. This shoe is called a Wave, and it has the shape of the heel. To me, looks like a wave. Also a shoe with and the heel was made. I'll go back out of aluminium also, because I really like the aluminium and the way that it can be shaped quite easily and also be made very shiny, which I really like. And another shoe that I made with the same idea was Pedestal. The heel of Pedestal is also aluminium. I have the shoe here. You can also have a look at it later. And it's completely, the heel is completely made out of aluminium. And as you have already seen, I really like the cantilevered heels. They will come back quite a few times in the presentation. This is 1001 because it has a kind of fairy tale look, and there are really, I don't know if there are actually 1001 pearls and beads in that, but well, who knows. Another cantilevered heel. With this one, I tried to work a lot thinner with the materials that I have, and this one is made out of steel. And because of the orthopedic background that I have and the knowledge of materials that we use in orthopedics, I came up. Well, I'll just get back. I came up with a material, the carbon fiber, and I decided to use it a lot. In between, I've made just for fun a pair of men's shoes with the patterns just scattered all over the surface and not moving away from the very much traditional way of shoemaking. This one's called Fold, and I named it this because of the folding that I did with the carbon fiber. The heel is from the ball portion to all the way to the back, built up out of carbon fiber with a resin. And I've made a second version of it where I perfected the method, and so I could work a lot thinner. One of the samples that I did was split. I also have it here. And the interesting, I came up with this idea because it's a very simple shoe, but when I stepped out of a swimming pool And of course, everybody knows when you have a wet footprint on somewhere, you can see that you only have the markings on the outside of your heel, and the inside of your heel is barely doesn't touch the floor. So I asked myself, well, if it doesn't touch the floor, it doesn't need any support. So what can we do with the space which is underneath? So I tried to bend it downwards and creating a heel in this. And because of the carbon fiber, it's really strong. It won't break. I wanted to make more complex shapes with the carbon fiber, but I found it very difficult to imagine how the molds would look like that. So at first I would make like these wire constructions just to see if it was possible how the molds would look like. And while making those samples, I realized, well, actually they're already finished, and why should I make them into shoes if they can also be sculptures? So I did a few sculptures in bronze, and also it's officially a platform supposed to be made into a shoe, but I got stuck where it is now. So it turned into a sculpture. This is skin deep, and it shows another material that I really like to work with, and that's a polyurethane hard foam, which is a two-component material that when you when you mix it, it rises and it brings a solid form, and you can shape it very easily, and you can pour it into molds, and that works really well. So the photo on the left shows the build-up of the shoe. The actual shoe has a very thin layer of upper leather, and it's based on the saying that beauty is only skin deep. This is Vojito, and Vojito I made. It's a more sculptural shoe, but it's also very much wearable. And I like the idea of making a shoe that looks very different from different angles, and also using a lot of different materials. More into the sculpture part, it's not wearable, but you can put your foot in there. It's called lateral thinking, and it has. I think it's a very interesting object, to be honest. It opens, by the way, the same way as the artist duplex shoes. There's a hinge on the back of the shoe where you can open it, put your foot in, and close it. It's not functional, but it's fun, right? Faiseo is what I wanted with this shoe is to try to make a shape where you would not have the idea that it's initially that it's a shoe. Also, something that I see with Noriyuki, who's doing the same kind of things. This is a pump that I've made. It's here, and it looks like a very simple shoe, but actually, when you look at the patterns, it's a one-piece upper. And I did some really, in my opinion, very interesting things with the pattern making. I can talk about it later. These are, by the way, the patterns of the previous shoe. There, as you can see, the bottom one of the top one is the one with for the upper leather, and the bottom one is the pattern for the lining. You can see that they're completely different, but when put together, they have the exact same shape. Here's another shoe that I made. It's a hole cut, and it has the burned marks on the toe caps. Title is Mr. Footprint because of the footprint that we leave in this world is not a pretty one at the moment, and so I tried to show that by cutting up the leather in the toe cap, making it wet, and then put a blowtorch on it, so the leather cracked open. Here's Lakshmi. That's a shoe that I made for a Dutch singer. It brings me to this pair of shoes. I also brought it with me. It's called Homage à Pops. And I made it as an homage to a shoe designer that you've probably heard of, Peter Pops, who sadly passed away in 2021. We were good friends, and we had a good time together because he allowed me to make his work. And that's a very big honor for me that the incredible designs that he did, that he had enough confidence in my abilities to bring these shoes to life. My personal favorites are bow, because of the various stacking of layers, which had to be exactly the same height for the left one and the right one. And every layer is done by stitch and turn, and so there was a lot of difficulty of getting each layer the same thickness, so I would end up with the same height. And the cube, because it's totally outrageous shoe, and and it's an enormous challenge to create this, but it worked out really well. And I have to thank Lisa Snook from the Virtual Shoe Museum. I think you all know, have been there at one point, for using these slides. Lisa Snook is, by the way, also a very good friend. Okay, I will go shortly through this. I once had a collaboration with Karen Jansen from 2011 to 2014, and our collaboration was called A Shoe Can Be. This is the part where the shoes are still wearable, but are also art pieces. And that starts with heliotrope, which means the plants that go upwards following the sun. I thought it would be interesting to finally make a shoe with a platform where the heel and the platform at the front are not aligned from back to front, but standing next to each other. We also did Spider, which is it's a really massive piece of work. Also has the hollow form as the same as you see here with the foot nest. And we also did coral, and coral is also a big sculpture. It cannot be worn, but it's made out of scraps that we got from like swatches that are left over from the industry. We had all those books with all the different swatches of all different types and colors of leather. So as you can see, we put in 400 different colors, 5,000 handmade leather beads, and 7,500 Swarovski crystals in this art piece. And each like the tiny parts that you see is a piece of leather which is rolled up, and it's all handmade. That means we also had a lot of material left, and we still, so all the bits and pieces that were left, we built it into another pair of shoes. Fold is made out of different layers and has the idea that the materials have shifted. The other thing is a shoe called Faces, which bears the face of the youngest daughter of Karen Jansen. I did some collaborations with fashion designers over the years, and that started out with Thierry Mugler. The first show I did with him was in 1997, and the final was in 1999, and I did 5 haute couture shows. And for the other one, I can't come up with a name. This is some of the work from the exhibition that went around the world from the work that Jerry Mugler did. The heel was iconic. It was the first time that this is the first collection where Mugler called me and he said, "Can you make me a heel out of that looks like a unicorn, but it has to be completely metal and shiny?" And I never did something like that before, so I said, "Yes, why not?" And it was. And I thought, well, at that point, I had so much confidence in my skills that I was sure that I would be able to make it, and so I did. And this is with this pair, I didn't actually did the embroidery, but that was delivered by Mugler, and I incorporated it in the shoes. Another fashion designer from Holland is Ilja Visser, and I did in total of 10 collections with her. Also making a good use of the knowledge that I have in shoemaking, building platforms, using all various materials to be able to create those shoes. These are also samples of that collaboration. This is the work that I did for Ruchemi Botter, who was also he was a student at the Antwerp Fashion Academy. This is work that I did for Quint Verhaert. He's a Dutch fashion designer. These shoes, the feathers that you see, are actually fins of a lionfish that were incorporated in the design. Wearable. Even though it doesn't look like that, they're very, very wearable. This is work for Klavers van Engelen. It's a brand that doesn't exist anymore. I really like the simplicity of their designs and still making something really interesting and beautiful. Esther Dorhout Mees is also a Dutch designer. We used the polyurethane hard foam and turned it into with something which looks like a concrete block, but still very light and still very wearable. Quentin Mesdag was a fashion student at Antwerp also. He did the embroidery and the laser cutting of the shoes on the left. Walter van Beirendonk, I guess it's a well-known name for everyone. He was the director of the Antwerp Fashion Academy. And these shoes, he stopped doing that, and the current director of the academy now is Brandon Wen, who was back then a student, and I also did work for him. Jalen Kim was also a student at the Antwerp Fashion Academy, and Ingmar Patton Plutschik also. All shoes are designed by people who are not shoe designers, and I've always found it very interesting to see if it's possible to convert their ideas into actual wearable shoes. Last summer I did the work for Ambrose Aurel, and this was also for a fashion show. That brings me to Makerzoon, which is my brand, and it's a brand that I made because I wanted to, at one point, make shoes out of the materials that I had and with the tools that I had. And I said to myself, I don't want to use any electrical machines, only hand tools and the stuff that I had. That turned out into these type of shoes, which are completely hand sewn, very much repairable, and have some interesting details like maker marks, because the heels that I make are simply just, the rubber is simply cut off and not sanded or finished in any way. And the beveled edges in the toe caps show that there's an actual material there. And of course, within traditional shoemaking, you always want to get rid of the transition so you don't see that there's a toe cap in there. And I said, well, it's a beautiful thing, so why not show it? So, well, there it is. This one was in my mind for a very long time when I first started making patterns. I learned to make the the copy of the last with a fishbone pattern. And it took me almost 40 years to finally create a shoe out of it. And it worked really well. I think it's a very funny shoe. Special projects. These heels are made from bronze. They are casted in bronze. And the shoes actually have, the platform of the shoes have tiny keyholes where the keys fit. So when you put them together, they fit. This is for a TV show called Clockhouse. Well, obvious, a lot of humor in there. Ilko Moorer, a Dutch designer who is in London, designed a shoe with a heel on the top, on the toe. It was actually worn by a ballet dancer. Lulu did some designs for Africa-inspired fashion collab Heineken and Leemans & Wicker in 2017. Also very nice to bring life to the ideas of students, which the same goes for Ezra. Designed by Michelle Wu, also in collaboration with Leemans & Wicker. And this is also in the same category. Always very interesting to find ways to make platforms like this and also make the shoes wearable. Well, then my good friend Chris Donovan, who is also in the room, he at one point asked me to recreate a pair of shoes that he designed, and this was for a high-profile client of his. And well, happy to see you here, Chris. I did some work for a musical Beauty and the Beast, very heavy shoes with nails and claws and stuff like that. This is one very interesting. If you haven't seen the video yet, Scary Beautiful by Leanie van der Vijver, go and see it. She made this video with a woman walking very difficultly in shoes like this, because she actually put the heels of the shoes in front. And there was a lot of discussion online about the wearability of these shoes. Please go and go see the video on YouTube. She explains it very well, why she made this design. She made it in my shop under my supervision. This is for Conchita Wurst, an Austrian singer who won the Eurovision Song Contest. I don't know if that's something that you know. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. This is a design that I made for him. This was a blast. Anouk Wipprecht, also a Dutch designer, designed the shoes for Fergie from the Black Eyed Peas, and the shoes were worn during the Super Bowl halftime show in 2011, which at that time had 111 million viewers, which is by far the most viewed shoe that I've ever done. This is one reconstruction of a pair of 17th century shoes, and this is last year from 2022 to 23, I had a solo exhibition at Museu do Calçado in Portugal. It was there for a year, and it showed basically all the work that I made for myself, that I've also designed. These shoes are called Mrs. Footprint, because, well, if there's a Mr. Footprint there also, I thought it would be nice to have a Mrs. Footprint also. And I donated these shoes to the Portuguese Shoe Museum. It's based on the same design as the Hommage à Pops, which is there, and I can show you later on why this is an interesting design, because this is also a hole cut. It's basically one pattern, and with putting the seams in a very well-positioned place, you can still make a 3D shoe with only one seam and one piece of leather. This is, by the way, the pattern, what it looks like. I really like the challenges of pattern making, by the way. And during my work as a shoe designer, shoemaker, I have always been a teacher at the same school that I was also learned how to make orthopedic shoes. I've been there for 18 years, and after that period, the shoe decided to no longer offer the course of traditional shoemaking there. So I thought to myself, well, there goes my job, and there goes, well, at least my steady job. And I said, I went to the school, the head of the school, and said, well, if you were going to stop with this course, would it be okay if I would do it on, if I would personally continue this course? And they agreed with that. So I started my own academy. It was a very risky chance, because at that point we only had 4 students. That was in 2018. When I actually really started working with, had the first year, that was in September 2019, I already had 18 students who attended the course. The next year there were 24, and the next year there were 34. And currently that's the maximum number of students that I have. I do everything by myself. I organize the complete course, and I do it in this space. It has 6 individual workspaces. Each have their own individual machine. It's an open space with with a lot of light. These are the personal workstations where the students work. Of course, I use an FAV skiving machine, and I've made an instruction board. It's really this big to show students how the skiving machine works, and because I want to keep it in one piece, and I think it's very important to show students not only how to make shoes, but also how to look after the machines themselves. Lots of threads, lots of leather, lots of supplies, lots of lasts. We have a very nice pantry with where the shoes are exhibited that I make, and they serve as an example for every question that any student might have. A lot of sanding machines. I even have a vacuum forming machine in which we make plastic shoe fitting shoes, so you can see what the foot looks like when it's inside the shoe. A column drill, some presses, a stitch down machine, and a McKay stitcher. This is the curriculum of the basic shoes that I offer, but my students really like to not do this, and they want to make anything but this. But still, I think it's important that they learn the basics of shoemaking. So I have made. I've decided during COVID to write down the complete procedure of how the shoes are made. And that turned out into, at this point, 9 educational books. I have 2 of them here. We can look at them later. It covers the complete making of the shoes from A to Z, from the first draft of the mean forms from the lasts until the shoes are completely finished and when the last is taken out. Some images of my students at work. They really have to do everything by themselves. Sometimes they work solely from the books and only ask my help when they don't know what, if they cannot go any further, they ask my help. And some of them really love to, if I'm actually showing them how things work, so making examples and things like that. There's a lot of variation in what they can make, different types of seams. The middle one shows a Spider-Man inspired shoe, which is in the making at the moment. Traditional shoemaking, like the welting, is also done. The students are also encouraged to use the sanding machine to make heels and whatnot. And from that we also make molds for reproduction of heels. One of my students, Wout Spijers, he was the winner of the 9th edition of the Craft of Leather competition in 2022. And he made 3 objects, a globe made from leather, a traveling bag with a saddle on it, so you can, if you're tired, you can sit on it, and a pair of shoes which are detachable as a slipper and a shoe, and the slipper shows that that the wearer of this pair of shoes, because it's a veg-tan leather with colors under UV light, this person spent more time on the beach than in the office. This is some of the works of the students. You just have to look at it. I'll just show some of the complex works. Some students do stick to the program, and others just want to go wild. And because of the knowledge that I have with and the experience of making so many very different shoes, and had to cope with so many different challenges, there's no question my students have which I don't have an answer to. So, this is. And some people even like the one on the top left is they also like to make makersewn shoes for themselves, which I really like and encourage. The top one on the left is shoes that were also made by using the carbon fiber. Also, you can see the variety of shoes that they make is really, there's a big variety. Even the traditional top left, again, like the tiny buttons. If you want to see more of the work, because to give you an idea, the stuff that I've showed here is about only 20% of what I actually did, and I hope this wasn't too much of an overkill for you. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Particular questions for? Yeah, material-wise, the ones you did for Peter, were those carbon fiber? Hi, thank you. The shoes you made for, it was Peter Pops, what were those made out of?
Mostly of carbon fiber and the polyurethane hard foam.
Okay, even like the silver-looking ones, the foam or there's some that look like they're made with metal too, right?
Yeah, it looks like metal, but
Yeah.
it's sprayed.
Got it.
It has a paint layer on
Cool.
it. Yeah, yeah.
I have a question for actually both of our guests. So, Keiko, you might, my words aren't very good, so you might need to translate for, for both of you in your personal work, you both do things that are inspired completely from your own imagination, as well as working with others who guide you, who you're trying to create their idea. I'm just wondering if each of you have a preference in that, in one or the other, whether you prefer being completely on your own, or if you like having the parameters of somebody else saying, this is what I would like, figure it out. Just curiosity.
Well, for me, it's a 50-50, because I really love to explore my own mind, and I don't have enough time for it, unfortunately. I do sketch a lot. I have this pile of scrapbooks which are completely filled with designs which I will never be able to make, because life's too short. But the challenge for to make shoes for other people, especially students, because they lack any insight of how shoes are made or supposed to be made, and they just design away and have basically no idea. So creating and actually making those designs, that's a really big challenge. I really like that. Also the collaboration with other designers. Yes. That.
両方好きです。50-50です。さっきも言ったように、若い頃はお客さんの要望をちょっと受け入れたくないなみたいな、自分のスタイルを貫きたいなみたいなことを思ってたんだけど、それによってそれを受け入れることによって自分の世界が広がったり、新しいデザインの発想が生まれたりするので、それも重要ですね。
So he said before too, but when he was younger, he had moments when he wished the clients, requests. He didn't like it as much. He wished he had his own design that he could kind of follow, but with time too, and he appreciated other ideas and opinions, and from that work he could also get inspired for something newer, for another project, and so it opened up his world. Yeah, so he likes it both 50-50.
Hi, René. I'm here as a fellow Dutchman, and I was sent here by my sister-in-law, who was a student in your academy.
Oh,
and she speaks
you're
in
the sister
glowing
of
terms.
Karen.
No, from
No?
Anita.
Oh, sorry.
You know her? Yeah, probably you do. Anita Hardeman.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm in the communication design department here, so I thought it's a small walk for me. But I have a question, of course, because you're making quite outrageous shoes. We have not that landscape in the Netherlands for being so outrageous. So since you have a growing population of students at your school, would you say that you are preparing the Dutch for wearing different kind of shoes than the wooden shoes we were used to walk on?
Well, the main goal of my students is to make shoes for themselves, and mostly because they either cannot find well-fitting shoes, or either shoes that they just the shoes that they see in the stores that they just don't like it, and they want to be original and make shoes for themselves. That's about 85% of my students' reason for following the course of tradition of shoemaking. Yeah.
You are the fourth generation. Is there
Yes.
anyone? Is there anyone else in your family that's pursuing this still?
Yes, I didn't have mentioned. Currently, my son Owen is present in the room. I forgot to mention him. I'm very sorry. He's currently graduating to become a shoemaker. Yeah. So fifth generation is on the way. Yeah.
Oh, and maybe in a few years you can come here and give us a talk.
All right. Any other questions? I have a few questions for, part of the shoe talks. Just for both of you, maybe. Yeah. If you don't mind standing over here. Closer. Cut all my questions short. Here's one. Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
This one's on. Yeah, on, up.
Try it? Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to go straight into, because time is kind of getting shorter, I'm going to cut straight into some curiosities just from the presentation. You mentioned imperial family, royal family, where is it? How have you, I heard that you made for the imperial family, the shoes. 天皇陛下の人たち家族に靴作ったことはあるんですか？ How did it come about? どういうふうな経緯で？
私が言えるのはすごい限定されてて、
いやもちろんもちろん、でも
宮内庁に、定期的にまず納品してるっていうことと、天皇陛下の即位の式典、天皇陛下の即位の式典の靴の一部を作りました。
即位の式典って何ですか？
天皇陛下、新しい天皇陛下になりました。そのセレモニーの靴を作りました。天皇陛下の靴を作ったとは言えないです。
でその時の他のどなたか見つけてこう。
お付きの人の履いてる靴っていうのはテレビで見ました。はい。
How did they find you? Was it social media? どういった経緯でこうご紹介というかお願いされたんですか？
連絡が来て、はい、2018年かな。それから最初から式典の靴は作れなかったんだけど、最初修理から実績をつけて。
Oh, interesting.
はい。
So somebody who works in the he's also I think he signed an NDA, so there's not something that's like a big thing that he announces and everywhere, but he can say that somebody from the imperial family reached out to. He started by shoe repairing actually, and then for their shoes, and then built up the relationship, and then he eventually made some shoes for when the ceremonies. He's seen it on TV for some of the people who who work closely with the royal family, and then also ceremonies when they pass down the generation. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Not coronation. It's not a coronation. It's my own country. I don't even know how to say it. When the generation changes, that ceremony. I didn't even know how it's called in Japanese. I had to ask him what that meant. So in that ceremony, he made some shoes for that. Yeah, which is really cool. And then because different cultures. Oh, and when you were making it for them, did you have cultural background in mind? Did you put Western influence in there? What was your design creative mind?
バックグラウンドは、もちろん日本人なので、日本の文化っていうのは染みついてるんだと思うけど、意識はしてないですね。逆に僕ヒップホップ、ラップミュージック好きなんですけど。
He likes hip hop and rap music. So I was asking him about if he had the cultural influence into the designs that he made, but it wasn't necessarily.
そのヒップホップマインドっていうか、それは僕 僕の作品にかなり影響を与えていると思いますね。
So he thinks that all the hip hop mind that he has, he says it's influencing his work. Okay. So I'm curious about for you, this is Japan, Holland. Have you made shoes for the royal family?
Oh yes, I did. Yeah.
And how did they find? How did it come about? How did they find you? What kind of design? Was it a client work in a way that they had a design in mind, or did you have freedom to make?
No, I didn't have any freedom. No. And to be honest, I'm not even allowed to talk about it.
Okay.
Because they had me sign an NDA, and but if you ask me if I work for them, I can say I did, but I cannot
say which shoes.
Tell you anything else.
Oh.
Sorry. No, but it was some quite nice events, and there were shoes that were accompanied by dresses made by Dutch fashion designers. Yeah.
That's so great. I have so many questions, but
actually, can I
yeah.
Just on that note. So on that note, I'm very curious. How supportive the Japan and also the Netherlands are of makers, artisans, heritage crafts, right? That's just a quick question.
And but do you mean in general or?
Yeah, just in general.
Well, in the Netherlands, there's not a big tradition of having bespoke shoes made. That's the market is very small, unfortunately. Yeah.
But there used to be a school for shoemaking.
Yes, but it was also still a course in
course.
traditional shoemaking, and it was there are only like a handful of shoemakers in the Netherlands that can actually make a living out of making shoes. Yeah.
どう思いますか？日本ではサポートされてますか？なんかこう国でも文化的にも靴作りは増えてますよね、学校とかも。
そうですね。もうほとんど国からのサポートみたいなものは全然なくて、ただお客さんは本当に限られてる中。靴を作りたいっていう若者はどんどん増えてて、よくお客さんより作り手がいるっていうようにこう揶揄されるぐらい作り手はいっぱい増えてます。未だに増えてますね。
So, as a country, it's not as supportive in the way, even though craftsmanship is appreciated in Japan, but now there's like a resurgence of more makers. There's more makers. There's less customers in ratio-wise. Less customers, more makers, and there's like way more makers, younger makers that are coming up, and it can be, in the schools, your school as well. But there's a few shoemaking schools in Japan. And then a lot of people go back to their hometowns and they start their own classes in their own homes or spaces, like kind of like shoe space, but like in their own towns. And then if you go out to Italy, there's a lot of Japanese apprentices, and they all come back.
Yeah, this is the strange thing in Holland is that we do have clients that have bespoke shoes. But they all go to England or Italy, and not to the local shoemakers in the Netherlands. We don't know why, but we're trying to change it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Where do you see the future of shoemaking heading? Do you envision continuing evolution of the craft, kind of like where you're like passing down the torch in a way, or all the knowledge and do you have? How do you feel about the future of the craft?
Well, I think we're being more and more aware of the throwaway culture, of the mass production of everything, and that's also the thing that I see a lot of in my students, which are motivated by making stuff by themselves, and that's something that's only getting bigger. That's what I notice.
大丈夫ですか？靴の将来、靴作りの将来どう思いますか？
靴の、構造的な進化っていうのはあんまりないのかなと思うんですけど、素材はどんどん変わっていくし、もう今ももうその過渡期っていうか、この移り変わる時期なのかなっていうのはひしひしと感じてますね。
将来どんどん、
はい、素材が。
Structurally can't evolve that much anymore, he feels like, but the materials are changing so much. So there's 素材がすごいどんどんすみません。I'm like I have
靴の構造はそんなに今とあんまり変わらないのかなと思うんですけど、素材がどんどん進んでいくと思います。
Okay, so he thinks that the material is going to definitely evolve and for the future. So that'll be interesting to see. Yeah. Speaking of materials, what's your favorite material to work with? I know you mentioned the carbon fiber and the foam.
Yes, and the natural veg tan leathers. That's something I really like to work with because it's really flexible and you can shape it in any way you want. You can color it, and it has which is very interesting, an antibacterial quality on it. So if you use it as a lining, you don't get any odors, which is very very nice.
Yeah.
But the flexibility and it's a very versatile material.
Yeah.
Yes. Of course, cow leather is best for us, best for shoemaker. But I have to think about new material. Now I try to find new material. Yes.
And is there like new meaning, like sustainable? Is it like?
Yes, actually I used tent material last year and copper.
Copper?
Metal. Yes. So every year I tried.
Different things. That's cool. Okay. What is next for you? What in the next, it could be this year, it could be in the 5 years. What do you think? What kind of shoes would you like to be making? What kind of legacy would you like to leave?
For me, it's completing my book series, and well, keep on making shoes. That's basically it. Because I'm turning 60 this year, and thinking a lot about retirement in a few years, but only retirement from the actual teaching and not from the making, because I will be a maker forever.
Right.
I want to leave a world famous masterpiece like Salvatore Ferragamo's Rainbow Sandal. I like very much, so I want to make masterpiece.
Masterpiece. Cool. Cool.
You already made many.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people have asked some of the questions that I was going to ask about, how, that from tradition to the arts, how that became. It's really fascinating to hear. Anything else? Like everybody, do you want to? Oh yeah, well, that too. Oh, and the hands, okay. What is your favorite? You know what it is? We did shoe talks with them during the pandemic. So we did already ask this question, so it is repetitive. But what is your favorite tool, the hand tool or in your studio?
For me, it's the AE Berg lasting pliers. I had the very nice opportunity to get my hands on a completely new tool, because one of the shoemakers that I know, he once went to a Belgian shoe factory which closed down, and he found a box with 6 AE Berg pliers in it, which were completely new, never been used before. So that's my favorite tool. Yeah.
How about you? What's your favorite tool?
I cannot choose, but lasting pliers.
Where is that one from?
Sewing machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, sewing machine. Yes.
Well, your lasting pliers, which one do you use?
Japan made.
Made in Japan.
Yeah.
And sewing machine, which one is it?
Sewing machine is also made in Japan. Yes, Seiko.
Seiko. Oh, I didn't know that Seiko made a sewing machine.
Sorry.
Seiko? 時計の Seiko? The watchmaker Seiko? No.
Maybe no.
Oh. Okay, cool.
Relation company, I don't know.
Very cool. I guess, yeah, okay. How has the way you work or collaborate with other clients or artists changed over the years that you've worked with the addition of social media? And no, just no.
No,
Yeah.
not really.
Just I guess
Oh,
as a
yeah.
communication tool, maybe you've seen
Yes,
the
as a
differences.
communication tool nowadays, of course, the mobile phones with video and stuff made it a lot easier to communicate with clients. That's for sure. Because, like I said, back in 1992, when I had to communicate with Jerry Mugler, it was done by he sending sketches, me making prototypes, sending it to Paris, where they would make Polaroid photos of them, and writing on the Polaroid photos what needs to be changed, sending the Polaroid photos back to me. Then I would make some sketches, fax them. Anybody know what a fax is? There was no internet. There were no digital photos. Nothing, and it worked really well. Yeah. We can still do that.
And as for you, was it more in person, or was it a lot of communication back and forth? Was it through all the devices?
Zoom が多いで
Zoom?
す。
You use
ほとんど。
Zoom, mostly
Zoom.
Zoom. But when you started out, was it more one-on-one, in person? 始めた頃はやっぱり1対1で面対
直接。いまだにでも直接が多いですね。
Even now, I think he says that it's mostly in person for him. Yeah. 国際お客さんで海外のお客さんの時はどうするんですか？
Zoom でコミュニケーションするけど、足はやっぱりこうスキャンしたものをメールで送ってもらって、でそれで判断するけど難しいですやっぱり。100% のものはできないかな。
海外のお客さんにお届けするときは日本から来られたりするんですか？
送るだけの時もあります。
Wow. So when he works with international clients, mostly Zoom, sometimes scans of their feet are sent and work that way. And then sometimes when you're delivering the shoes too, sometimes he has to just send it. He doesn't have time to come to deliver and try it on himself. So it's really difficult.
でも靴の難しいところってこうある人は気持ちいいって言ったりで同じものでもある人は痛いって言ったりするからそのデータを見ただけじゃやっぱりちょっと難しいところがありますね。
それをどうやったら直すんですか？直したりとか何回も
だから
何回もやりながら、
直接見てみないとわからないからやっぱりZoom とかでオンラインでやるのはやっぱり完璧なものを作るのは難しいですね。
So yeah, and he says making in with a Zoom, communicating online is very difficult and also hard to make something that's like completely the best fit. So ideally in person is better. Yeah. Obviously, right? But yeah, he prefers to see and feel the feet, talk to the person, get their feedback about how they like shoes to fit. You know, it's very subjective. So definitely in person. Yeah. でもよく海外旅行されてこう皆さんお会いするんですか？やっぱお客さんの例えば測りに来たりとか。
でもソロエキシビションやってる時に来る場合は測れるしで次のタイミングでフィッティングができる。
なるほどなるほど。Yeah. So he's been kind of using the travels that he does with the solo exhibitions to kind of overlap it with the fittings and taking measurements and stuff. But as you know, you see from like bespoke shoemakers here in the room, they travel to make the measurements and to deliver the fittings and stuff, and, right? So that's what you do, Caroline. Yeah, you do. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's just fascinating to see. Yeah. Okay. I have one. Please.
To continue this thing about travel and fitting, because I went and saw some Western boot makers this year who don't all make fitting shoes, and I was amazed by that. And so I'd like to know if you both make provisional, fitting shoes that are eventually garbage, but use them for finding out whether you've got the last right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's very important.
And you actually make a fitting shoe even if you do a vacuum formed thing, or is that a fitting shoe for you?
No, it's just, and I start with the plastic see-through shoe, and then an actual fitting shoe made out of leather, and then the actual shoe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for like projects that are quick, do you still have to do?
No, I skipped the middle part. Yeah.
But for a bespoke project?
No, for a bespoke project, it's always multiple fittings. Yes, yes.
And
フィッティングは1回だけですね、基本的にほとんど。
He makes fitting one round of fitting, and then that's about it. And then the next round is the second round is your final pair.
Yes.
And do you make exactly same shoe, or is it like a easy fitter shoe? フィッティング用の簡単な靴か同じようなちゃんとデザイン。Same style.
縫ってないけども結構ちゃんとしたの作りますね。
縫ってないってどういうこと？ソールの。
ソール。
So it's more like a cemented?
Cemented, yes.
So the upper style is the same style as what they're trying to make, but the fitting is cement lasted.
Yes, and sometimes there's no time, and then you simply have to do it with the tracings of the foot, and that's it. And trust your intuition and skills, and especially for films, it's always a very tight deadline. and my colleague knows about that. And then it just has to be done very quickly.
And do you do much of that film work?
Sorry?
Do you do much film work?
No. Sometimes I did some films, but most of them it's all under NDA, so I can.
Yeah.
I would love to talk about it, but it's tricky.
I know all you.
Maybe when the microphone's off.
All your shoes are kind of like your babies in a way, but is there, if you are to choose one favorite, it can be a collaboration, it can be your artwork, it can be for yourself. Any shoe that you made, what's your favorite one?
I should say for our queen, of course, but I absolutely love the work that I did for Peter Pops. That's top of my abilities. Yeah.
My favorite work is Foot Nest. Yes.
And これは履いて歩けるんですか？歩きはしない。
Just
to put in your
yes.
foot. You can't walk in them, you can put your foot in them. And なぜですかっていうのは話がないからウェブサイト見てください。
コンセプトはそうですね。ちょっとだけ話すと。
Before in his presentation, he said, "Oh, it's a long story, so just please look at my website for descriptions." But because it's his favorite shoe, I think he could elaborate a little bit on it.
I made this during coronavirus situation. で、そのコロナで家から出れなくて靴を履けないことになるんじゃないかっていうことで新しい靴の概念を提示したかったっていう感じですかね。歩くだけじゃない。だって歩けないんだもん、外。はい。
Okay, so because during coronavirus, you were stuck at home, and in Japan, we take off our shoes, so you don't wear shoes. So he was thinking about shoes. Is it going to become obsolete at some point? Are we ever going to walk outside? Do you need shoes anymore? So he was thinking about it and came up with a shoe concept where it was not to wear because you can't really wear it anywhere. So he kind of came up with a form that's, you can put your foot in, but you can't really go anywhere with it. All right. Do you have any other questions? Thank you.
So how much does it cost approximately to make a shoe out of carbon fiber? Because carbon fiber is pretty pricey. So.
Difficult question. I don't know if I can answer that because it depends completely on the complexity of the design. If I have to name a figure, around $1,500 somewhere to start with.
Yeah, I'm curious about the process of how you were making all the folded and the cantilevered shoes with how many layers of carbon fiber you've used for such a thin piece, or is it just one layer? Like I've never worked with that material before. I know you have.
Is it okay to elaborate on that a little?
Is it okay? Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Well, the carbon fiber is a material which doesn't stretch. So when you stack multiple layers on top of each other in different directions, you would get a very thin layer eventually, which doesn't has the ability to either bend or rotates, which makes it a really strong material to basically make anything. If you have a mold to fit in the carbon fiber, because the carbon fiber itself is a fiber and it's very flexible, but by making a mold and pushing it into the mold under pressure, adding epoxy resin to connect the fibers with themselves. And when the epoxy hardens, it becomes very strong. I have the split shoe here. If you want to feel it and try it, you can see how strong it is. It's basically a build-up of different layers. Yeah.
I think that's it for tonight, and there's no more questions. I think that's it for the night. Thank you so much all for coming out, and thank you both for presenting all your work. I know it's not all of your work, and so yeah, we all have to follow up and just see all the other works that you have.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.